All right, let me start off by saying happy Halloween. Today is Halloween, October 31st, 2022. I'm completing the 31 days of masks on my channel. For those of you that don't know, producing little videos like this, it's a lot of work, even for short ones. So I'm kind of proud of myself that I made it. I thought for sure I would have skipped a night or two and let you guys down, but I didn't. So this is a special video. I wanted to save the best for last, and I cannot stress when I say best for last. This mask has gone down in monster history as the rarest mask of all time. Hands down the most sought after mask in Halloween mask history. The most elusive mask in Halloween mask history. And it was made by a gentleman by the name of Verne Langdon, okay? Verne Langdon was a magician. He was a circus clown. He was a mask maker. He was a makeup artist. Did I say musician? He's a musician. And he was a wrestler. So Verne was the creative force behind the famous Don Post Studios calendar masks, okay? He and Don worked together, and he wanted to create the greatest monster masks of all time. And he did just that, no doubt. He probably didn't know that they would just go down in history as the most important monster masks of all time. That's for sure. I believe he was working at Don Post Studios between 1963 and 1968. And that is, oh boy, here comes midnight. The fun begins. Cat number one enters the room. Yeah, Verne's attention to detail behind those masks made them, along with the incredible sculptors of the time, made them some of the greatest masks ever known. And he went on his own to produce one of the greatest masks ever known. Verne, like I said, he was a musician. He was a musician as well. He actually produced the Evening with Boris Karloff and Friends album and lots of other neato, 60s type record albums. Cool music. Ooh, I just won a mask. So in 1972, Verne went on to make... Can I help you? A special Halloween mask. Probably the most special mask in all of mask history. And it was a zombie. It was a hippie. God, it was a hippie-looking zombie that he created. And the year was 1972. And Warren Publishing, they put this mask right on the cover of their creepy annual for 1972. And the mask was known as the Zombie. Oh my God. Get out of here! But everyone in the hobby refers to it as the Verne Langdon Zombie. Warren Publishing had Creepy magazine, and even though it wasn't as big as Famous Monsters is or was, it was still just as important to a lot of monster kids. And the fact that that mask was put on the cover of that magazine, that was the driving force that made this mask so desirable to a million monster kids out there in the early 70s. The thing is, you could not get your... Stop coming in here if you want to get out. Go. they really didn't have intentions on selling the mask to like mass producing it. They didn't put it on the cover for that reason. They just put it on there because it was so damn cool. The numbers I've heard from several sources are, with the help of, I believe, Terry Smith was his name. Verne made, I believe, a dozen copies of the mask, and Terry went on to make about twice as many, so about 24 copies. And they had an ad. There was an actual ad where you could order the mask, but then they quickly retired that ad. So, after that one prototype was on the magazine cover, there was a big demand for it. Verne only made a dozen, and then Terry made about 24 or 25 copies. And that is all we have as the known history of how many were actually produced back in 1972, 50 years ago. Man, $39. I could have bought one for $39 when I was born. Little did I know. If I knew then what I know now, God. Somebody could go and make a one-off mask today, or a mask with only three copies produced, and say this is the rarest mask of all time. Because there's only one, or three were ever made, but none of them will have the history that this mask has. You're going way back into Monster Mask history and Monster Kid history, into the days of Warren Publishing, where a zillion guys and kids wanted this mask. Because I'm going to show you the magazine cover right now, because it looked so damn cool. Everyone wanted it. You can go make a mask now, make 2 copies ever, but it ain't going to have the impact that this mask had for decades, literal decades of guys searching for this mask. And I'm telling you, from 1972 all the way up through the 80s, 90s, 2000s, this mask was the most elusive and sought after mask of all time. I mean, people dubbed it the rarest mask of all, okay? So, one was known out there. I think Dwayne Whitehead, my buddy Dwayne, owned it years ago, that needed serious restoration work. And that ended up in the hands of Mr. Joel Grossman. And for years it was known as an original Verne Langdon zombie. But it was repaired, repainted, rehaired. Looked gorgeous. I mean, I'll show you pictures of Joel's copy. Just looked simply amazing. But yet, but even though that was around, no one has ever seen an original 1972 issue, original paint, original hair copy, since the old days. None have ever surfaced. There was a zillion recasts, okay? The mask was recasted, at least a few times, and there were lots of copies floating around in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. I used to have a recast of it with this horrible white hair, and I thought it was so cool, because I'm like, I got the Verne Langdon zombie. And it was so tiny. All the recasts are super small. And I never in my life thought I would own this mask. Nobody does. Nobody in this hobby thinks, I'll find a Verne Langdon zombie one day. It's just one of those things that you knew was unobtainable, And I get an email one day from a ex-Don Post employee who, my stomach's going crazy. They said, listen, there's a old-time collector out there, a very private collector who started collecting in the 70s, okay? He has one of the greatest collections no one's ever seen, and he has an original Verne Langdon zombie. And this man doesn't sell anything. He's hardly ever sold masks or any of his memorabilia all these years. He coveted his collection like no one I've ever seen has. And she said, he's decided to sell one mask, and it's an original 1972 Verne Langdon zombie with original paint, original hair, all, pretty much an untouched mask that was foam filled back around 1983. And I'm like, what? So she goes, I'm going to put you in touch with the gentleman. The thing is, he wants an astronomical price for it. It was such a crazy price. I could have went and bought like a Trans Am or something. I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like, well, I'm going to, try to get him to lower the price. Whatever. If I even fathom spending thousands and thousands of dollars like this on a mask. I've never done it. Not like this. To this day, it's the most expensive mask I've ever bought in my life. And I am so glad I did. I could tell you that. Because this story has a lot of facets to it. And so I started talking with this gentleman, and he had this East Coast accent over the phone, and we started talking about the history of his collecting and his love for Don Post. We weren't talking about the Verne Langdon zombie quite too much in the beginning, And I said, hey, listen, can you email me some photos, and I'll send you some pictures of my collection. I think you'll like it. And he said, I do not own a computer. I will take photographs, and I will print them at the photomat, and I will mail them to you. And I'm like, what? Don't you have a cell phone? No, I do not have a cell phone. I'm like, well, you don't? And then like, after talking with him for a long time, he maybe saw the internet 5 times in his life. He used to work at a library, and he goes, I remember when I worked at the library and the internet came out, I saw a few websites. I looked up a couple of mask websites way back then, and I'm like, wow, talk about an old school collector. This was it, And by this point, I was fascinated. I'm like, this is amazing. This man never had a computer, never had a cell phone, a pager, an answering machine, nothing. Everything was done like the old days. And here I am. I take pictures of my collection. I'd go to Walgreens. I'd print out a nice stack of them, and I'd send it to him in the mail. He would send me letters. We'd handwrite letters to each other. And I'm like, it's the first time I've ever written a letter in decades to someone, sitting on the table, writing a letter by hand, putting a stamp on it. And you know what? I loved it. I'm like, this is how everything used to be. And there was such a nostalgia between the two of us. And this grew into a crazy friendship, he and I. The name of this gentleman's collection, by the way, is the Frankenshrine, okay? Mr. Frank's Frankenshrine, okay? And I reached out to a friend of mine who is one of the few people that ever saw this man's collection. And he was there back in the 80s, okay? And I wanted him to authenticate this Verne Langdon zombie. It sure looked real as can be, but I never saw one in person. I except for the magazine cover, and I'd stare at the magazine cover, I'd look at these pictures. I'm like, I don't know, it looks pretty detailed. It looks, looks legit. It looks super old. And he goes, that is indeed the real Verne Langdon zombie, and I'm the one that foam filled it back in 1983. I'm like, enough said. Now I know it's legit, And so I started talking with Mr. Frank again, and I said, I go, let me sleep on this. He goes, don't worry, I'm not talking to anyone else. if I sell this, I want you to have it. After seeing the collection and everything, he goes, you have a great Dompost collection. And he could tell I was passionate about mask collecting. And so I got back to him. I called him back one day. And I said, I want the mask. And I was so excited. I'm like, this is hands down. The thing about this hobby is the thrill of the chase, the thrill of the hunt, going after something, searching, and then when you find it, it's everything, It's that thrill of, finding that artifact that you never thought you'd own, or finding a superior copy of one. It's incredible. So I could not believe I was about to buy this Verne Langdon zombie. Get out of here! So then on the phone, he goes, oh, that's wonderful. However, I want $2,000 more now. If you knew him, you'd start laughing. I go, what? I go, we had a deal, man. He goes, well, I really don't want to sell it. But if I'm going to sell it, I want a lot for it. I'm like, listen, this is I go, there's only 3 people in the world that would probably pay this for that mask. 1 or 2 of them being wealthy people that just have the money, that don't care, like rock stars I know. And then lunatics like myself that have to have it and will just pay it even though they shouldn't be buying it, And I'm like, oh my God. And at that point, I said, fine, but do not raise the price at all anymore. This is it. I'm not going to pay up anymore. And we agreed on it. And I had him ship it in this crazy shipping box, huge box, double or triple boxed. I paid several $100s to ship it because it's so delicate. And thank God I bought that mask, because it sparked a friendship like I've never had in my life. Okay. Frank and I became very, very close friends. I never met someone so knowledgeable about monster films, masks, mask makers, painters, actors, musical scores, anything you could imagine in the horror world. I never met anyone more knowledgeable in my life. This man was in his 70s, okay? Imagine someone collecting since the 70s all the way up till the 2000s and never really sold anything. And they had this incredible collection. And we would talk all night, okay? And I'd be like, oh my God, I gotta get off the phone. I gotta work tomorrow. I gotta go. And every night, every other night, we'd be on the phone. It became so funny how much time I would spend on the phone with him. I would start screenshotting on my iPhone. I would screenshot the amount of time we talked. It'd be like 2 hours, 40 minutes, 1 hour, 50 minutes. Like, I have all of these screenshots with his name and the hours we spoke at night, which it was insane. I just start laughing. I wait till the last second we're going to hang up. I'd screenshot it, and I have all of these saved in a folder, all of our conversations. And he was a huge Hammer film fanatic, and he got me more into Hammer films. He got me into so many other things that I liked or I kind of saw here and there, but he pushed me into lots of other areas of this hobby I'm so glad he did that. So to make a super long story short, purchasing this mask, you can't put a dollar amount on a friendship like we had, okay? And every time I look at that thing in the glass case, I think of him and I think, like, what if I never bought that mask? I never would have met this person who just literally blew my mind, with his collection and his knowledge and his love for this hobby, you know, up until the day he passed away. It was his daily life was monsters, masks, everything. So that's a whole other story. Like I've filmed his collection in detail for years. Okay, I have a lot of footage, and when the time comes, I will put a video together as a type of documentary on him and his collection. It's going to take a long time. It may be several parts. I don't know, but just know that will be coming, okay? Because the world has to see this collection. And I told him, I go, someday I'm going to show everyone your collection. You know, and he was thrilled about it. And I was going to interview him on my last trip out there. You know, when I was out of town, I was going to get back in town, plan on visiting him again, and finally getting him to talk on camera, because he'll talk for hours. And he ended up passing away right after that. So we never did get the interviews on film, but lots of notes saved, lots of conversations in my mind, and it's that's like, so that mask, this mask represents, of course, it's the greatest, rarest mask of all, but that mask is everything to me because of the friendship that came out of it. All right, so just know, I know this is dragging on, this whole section of this video, but God, I think back, like, what if I never bought that mask, you know? So, and you've seen some of the things I've been showing you on this 31 days, some of the rare things I've posted. Maybe like 3 pieces were from him. And, you know, that Shamrock Pumpkin was from him. But hopefully I'll show you some more things soon. But what a ride, you know, becoming friends with him. When my ex lived with me, it'd be like 2 or 3 in the morning, and she'd get out of bed and yell, "Are you on the phone with that old man again?" Yeah, I am. She didn't like the monsters too much, so she don't live here anymore. Let's take a very in-depth look at the Verne Langdon zombie. I'm going to get into a newer casting that my buddy Dwayne came out with. That was so all these years the recasts were very tiny. You could never wear them unless you were some abnormal, you know, tiny person. And my buddy Dwayne finally came out with a wearable copy. I told him how to blow up that casting, and he did it, and he was so thrilled. And it came out the exact same size as the original. The original dwarfs all the other ones, you know. Let me pull the sucker out of the case, and let's take a look at the 1972 Verne Langdon zombie. In the hobby, the only known survivor copy. Original paint, original hair. This is it. Let's go get it. All right, this is where this mask sits for years now in this special display. You know, a lot of you probably have seen it in videos and pictures on the internet. This is where I keep this sucker. I'm gonna have to shut the camera off so I can grab it with both hands and carefully carry this to the podium over there. All right, you ready for this? So, let me get out of here. Let me carefully go around here, and I'm gonna show you. Let's fix his hair out a little bit, get him more looking like he should. That right there is the 1972 Verne Langdon zombie in all its glory. All right. And God, I wish I had a recast here to show you how small they are. They're usually very small compared to this original. I was shocked at when I got this thing in my hands, when I finally pulled it out of that box, at how big it was. It originally had painted eyes in there. Kelly Mann hand painted some eyes years ago for Frank. I think it was Kelly Man back in the 80s. And even Kelly said, oh, that was a long time ago. I could have did a better job now. But he agreed by blacking that out. It just made it look like that zombie even more, because the eyes were kind of distracting. And it just wasn't, it was taking away from that look that I knew from all these years on the cover of that creepy annual magazine. I'm going to turn them around and show you different angles and stuff here shortly, but just letting you take a good look, a nice close look at the texture of that old latex that 50-year-old mask has from 1972. And the other cool thing is, I was born in 72, which makes this mask even more special to me. That noise you hear in the background is my friend doing drywall in the other room, getting ready for that crazy tiki bar I'm building. So here's a side profile of this incredible mask. Probably one of the most iconic masks in history. And this thing is complete. There is the Verne Langdon zombie's ear, which most people have never seen ever. I don't think the recasts even have the ears. I can't remember if they do or not, but pretty neat. That's tucked under that hair there, like that. Let's take a look at the other side here. Here's the other side profile of the zombie. Let's look at his other ear. And it's kind of a big wide ear. See that? Remember, this was done in the early 70s. Verne sculpted this sucker. And the hair on the, especially on the magazine cover, made it look like an old hippie. I'm going to put this thing flat so you can see the bottom of it. We're going to look at the back of it because it's something many people have never laid eyes on. And the coloring, I mean, the coloring is all, the paint is perfect. He may have had a little tiny issue somewhere, maybe by this eye here that could have been glued together during the foam filling process, but he's definitely hardened. That early 70s latex, that's a characteristic of old latex. It usually hardens like that. If this thing was not foam filled in the 80s, I highly doubt we would be looking at it right now. So the story goes, Frank bought this from a gentleman who I think he met him at a convention. He purchased it around 1982 from the guy, and the only reason the guy owned it, look at that, that's all perfectly intact, that whole edge there. That is insane that this copy is so well preserved. The reason the guy, the original owner of this mask, the reason why he bought it because it reminded him of a Morlock. So that is why the original owner bought this mask, because it looked like a Morlock to him. Look at that. That's something you'll never see out there. The back of a Verne Langdon zombie underneath the hair. Let's peel that original hair down a little more gently. You know, unfortunately, I see no kind of hallmark or signature by Verne. That would have been so damn cool if he put something in there, you know? Some kind of little stamp or initials. I've looked at this thing quite a few times. I've never seen anything on it, but that's so neat that that is all intact. Totally the wearable 72 version. I've got cool photos. I had a photographer friend of mine take of me holding this years ago. I was holding it straight out at the camera. It's one of my favorite pictures. And I'm really just showing off that incredible mask. You know, it's been in some magazines now where I've done interviews. I always talk about this because the question always comes up. What's the most expensive mask you have? Or what's the rarest mask you have? and I got the bragging rights of saying I've got the rarest mask of all time. And, you know, I kicked around the idea of selling it to a famous rock star out there. I'm glad I didn't. I'm so glad I didn't. You know, this is, to me, this piece is everything to this collection. And who knows the future of this someday? You know, when I'm gone, where will this end up out there? Who knows? Hopefully in some amazing monster collection, or with one of the great collectors out there of these masks, these Halloween masks, this obsession we have. Whoever may have it someday, I hope they take special care of it, just like I am. And I want this thing to live on a long time. So I'm going to show you the copy my buddy Dwayne made. He made the first wearable version, which was so cool. I actually got to put one on my head, and nobody knew how much the size compared to the original. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take yours and put it side by side with the original and see how close you got it. And he got it exactly the size of this mask through the enlarging process. It was insane. He didn't know it would come out that close. No, none of us did. But it was exact. We put it nose to nose. I got all these great pictures of it. Look at that. Look how close in size his came out to the original. And no one's ever done that. No one's ever produced a great wearable, you know, casting of this since the original, of course. But Dwayne knocked it out of the park with that one. I had him make one with special hair, unlike all the other castings he sold. And that one I sold off. But recently I had him make me a special one for my tiki bar. I said, dude, I want you to make a crazy one. And we're going to call it the Lava Zombie. We're going to put this black charcoal colored hair on top, and we're going to put fiery lava in the cracks. I'm going to go grab it. So there's the Lava Zombie. I still have to paint the eyes black, but I wanted a crazy looking thing that kind of looked 70s-ish, you know, that would be seen in a cool tiki bar. So he made the Lava Zombie for me. So there's that definite iconic issue of Creepy Annual, the Spooktacular issue from 1972 by the one and only surviving Verne Langdon zombie. This is a survivor copy. All original hair, all original paint. That's it, guys. And you know, you didn't have to be a monster mask collector to want this. Guys just wanted it. You know, they'd say, oh, I want to get that. It's so cool. And the Warren Publishing would tease monster people out there, monster kids. They'd put it in a for sale ad with other masks, but they'd have a sold out line through it. Probably just to draw your attention to that mask ad. So you go and buy something else next to it. Sorry, you can't get this, because nobody knew. They only made about 22 of them. We don't have any to send you. So we're still going to use it as a great sales tool. And again, hands down, one of the most iconic masks of all time. It's a pop culture icon. This thing has popped up in many forms over the years. It's popped up as lapel pins, cool magnets. My buddy Noah sculpted that little guy. And even cool tiki mugs, okay? And when I say this mask is a pop culture icon, I mean it. You don't have to be a monster mask collector to have wanted this thing back in 72, because it was that magazine started this all. That magazine is why this thing has been the most sought after mask of all time, because you could not get it. It's crazy that it's sitting here. It's insane. The story behind it, though, is amazing. You know, truly incredible that it's sitting here. So we did it, guys. The 31 days of Halloween masks is coming to an end. It's Halloween Day. I did it. I thought I'd let you down somewhere, but I did not. You know, I made a few mistakes. Hey, it happens. My brain is on overload when I shoot these videos. I made a mistake last night. I said the Halloween 3 which the Hagatha was sculpted by Jim Lawrence. That is wrong. It was sculpted by Jim Leonard. I woke up this morning, I'm like, I'm going to watch the video. And I go, shit! There's no way I'm re-uploading it and changing it. I pinned a comment. Whatever. Only some guys will know I messed up. Anyway, thank you for sticking with me through this journey of these 31 days of masks out of my collection. I love sharing this stuff with you guys. And this isn't it. This is it for the daily dose of masks out of this room. But I'm hopefully going to do this at least once a week, maybe twice a week. We will continue this, so don't worry. It's not over. All right. I actually shot a cool one last night on location at one of the most legendary mask makers from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. Is less than an hour away from here, and we had a great time with him last night at his studio. More to come on that. That may be produced today. If not, you'll see that video by tomorrow. Watch for it. That damn light went out. So anyway, I wonder if that's an old friend sneaking around here, excited that I shot this video finally on his old mask. So guys, thank you for watching. Happy Halloween once again. Be careful out there. Have fun. I'm going to go out trick-or-treating with some friends soon. We're going to eat chili dogs and terrorize all the children in the neighborhood. Not really, but it was fun. I'll see you soon. Probably tomorrow. You may see another video tomorrow. So, again, thank you. 31 days, we're done. Happy Halloween. No, I'm not doing this through Christmas. But you'll see another mask soon. All right, bye.